Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending this presentation. I'm presenting my joint work with Arsenia Chorty. Our work is on comparison of short block length Slepian-Wolf coding for key reconciliation. Physical layer security provides security by exploiting properties of physical layer of the channel. In general, the legitimate receiver should have some advantage over the eavesdropper. This advantage can be a better channel with the transmitter, or a common source of randomness with the transmitter. Physical layer security provides information theoretic security in contrast to cryptography method, which provides computational security. The secret key generation procedure is as follows. First, the two parties measure the common source of the randomness. The common source of randomness can be the wireless channel state or the channel challenge response of physical unclonable functions. The measurements can be different due to noise. The measurements of the two parties can be different due to the noise or interference or other issues. So the party needs to send some helper data to each other to help each other to reconcile the mismatch, the mismatch bits. Of course, these helper data can also help Eve for estimate the sequence. So we need to minimize these helper data to avoiding information leakage, while guaranteeing the legitimate parties are able to reconcile the mismatches, the reliability issue. So in this paper, we consider coding for a Slepian-Wolf coding problem for key reconciliation. We consider short block lengths due to the low latencies applications in the 5G. And we consider and implement three different families of code: Polar, LDPC, and BCH codes. The system model is as follows. Bob and Alice make a measurement, and after quantizing the measurement, they generate a sequence, binary sequence YA and YB. These sequences are the bits of these sequences are IID. So, and each bit with an equal probability can be 0 and 1. The probability of mismatches of the corresponding bits of two sequences is P. Here we assume that Eve is a passive. We assume a passive Eve, which means that Eve doesn't make any attack, and she only listens to the messages in the public channel. So this is I should add that we assume a one-shot communication. So Alice sends the helper data S, which has a length n-k. And at the end, Alice and Bob generate the secret key K of length K independently. The first code that we implement is LDPC code with ordered statistic decoding. LDPC code in general shows very promising performance in a long block length, but in a short block length, usually we need to equip it with some other tools. Here we use OSD. In the OSD, first we pick the most reliable, the K tilde most reliable independent position. K is the rank of the code. And we make a hard decision on the value of the selected bits. We flip the values of the bits up to the values of up to T bits among the selected bits, and we produce a list of candidates of the code words. And at the end, we pick the code word in the list by using ML search. With respect to the observation, Bob's observation YB. I should add that the list size of OSD increases as follow factorial, as the list size has a factorial complexity with respect to the order T. And here is the decoder structure. the Bob first feeds YB and the helper data S to sum product algorithm. And after some iteration, the sum product algorithm sends the LLR values to OSD. And the OSD do the ML search and pick and estimate YA. These LLR transmission to OSD can occur once or can occur each time or after each iteration. So we call the second way, the second mode, that the sum product block sends the LLR after each iteration. We call it the iterative mode. And we present the performance of both scheme at the simulation results. The other one is CRC-aided polar code, which also shows a good performance in a short block length. In this one, model, Alice sends the signal S1, which has a length n-k-l, which contains the high entropy bits of U. U is generated by YA times G. G is the generator matrix of polar code. And also Alice sends the CRC bits with length L. So at the end, she sent n-k bits to Bob. And Bob tracks L decoding paths simultaneously, and where L is the list size. The complexity of the decoder increased linearly by L. So as we increase the L, the complexity also increases linearly. And finally, we assume BCH code. The BCH code defined by NKT, the three-tuple NKT. N is the block length, K is the dimension of the code, and T is the number of guaranteed correctable error bits. To improve the performance of the BCH code, we can also equip it with list decoding, such that we flip the values of, we flip up to T bits of YB, and we generate a list and feed it to the BCH decoder. And among the solutions we get from the BCH decoder, we choose the one which has the maximum likelihood to YB. And we estimate YA by like that. At the end, I'd like to add that the list size increase, the complexity of the list size with respect to T is factorial. So in the numerical result, after explaining how we implement these codes, I want to present the simulation results. The simulation is for two block lengths, 128 and 512. For the first block length, we consider polar code of length 128 and dimension 75 with 11 bits of CRC. So we are assuming out of 128, we want to generate 64 bits of secret key. Also, I assume I picked a BCH code with length 127, dimension 64, and the guarantee correctable bit is 10. And at the end, we picked LDPC code, the regular LDPC code 36. The variable node degree is 3, and the parity check node degrees is R6. I should add that we can, by designing the degree distributions of LDPC code, we can improve its performance. But in this work, we don't consider the LDPC code designed for this problem. So, but we should keep it in mind that this is a problem that we can improve their performance. So in the first simulation, we consider block length 128, and we see that the first thing that we see a significant gap between the information theoretic limits and the frame error rate performance. We will observe in the next example that this gap will reduce in a block length of 512 512. Our conjecture is that one of the reasons is that this bound is not tight enough for very short block lengths. On the other hand, we want to compare the performance of the considered codes. First of all, we observed that the polar code of the list size, the classical polar code, the polar code with CRC list size 8, 32, and 112, 128, we observed that the list size significantly improved the performance. And polar code with a list size 128 has the best performance compared to the other codes that we have considered in this simulation. The next code that shows a very good performance is the BCH code list decoding T equal to 2. And if you consider, for example, the frame error rate 10 to minus 3, the next code which shows a good performance is LDPC iterative list decoding T equal to 2. But if we consider the complexity, we see that the complexity of the polar code is a linear, and but the complexity of the LDPC and BCH are factorial. So they have a higher complexity for this example than the polar CRC aided polar codes. The other thing that I'd like to mention that we observed that the list decoding also improves the performance of the LDPC code. For example, this is the LDPC code without list decoding, and this is with a list decoding T equal to 1 and T equal to 2. And for the LDPC iterative list decoding, we saw that their performance is much better, significantly improved if we consider LDPC iterative list decoding. So this is for order 1 and this is for order 2. And the same for BCH codes. In the second example, we consider the block length of 512. So we picked a polar code of 512 with a dimension 267. And also the other code as it's depicted. And here we observe that again, polar code shows the better performance than the others. And due to the complexity issue, we couldn't consider the longer decoding order of LDPC and BCH. And we don't observe much improvement after we increasing the order. So it means that the list decoding can significantly improve the performance in a very short block length, not in a medium length block length. So this is the summary of my work, and we consider this the coding for a Slepian-Wolf problem, and we compare the performance of 3 different families of codes, and at the end we see a significant gap with the information theoretic limit for 128, but the gap is much lower in the 512 bits, and we guess that the reason is that the bound is not tight. And thanks for your attention, and please welcome to ask a question. For further question, you are welcome to ask your comments and questions. Thank you.